حجر للخود مجر حجر للخود مجر
Hello and welcome to another edition of Conversations with Elias Amare. I'm your host, Elias Amare, and with me today is my good friend, Professor Mohamed Hassan. This is part two of our discussion on Red Sea security, which we have covered a few days ago. Part one is also uploaded. You can check that out. I welcome everybody again. Professor Mohamed Hassan is a renowned regional geopolitical analyst of the Horn of Africa region. He's originally from the Somali region of Ethiopia, seasoned diplomat, former diplomat of Ethiopia, a scholar, a researcher who has written several books and many articles and has covered the Horn of Africa region as well as the Middle East. Professor Mohamed, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Comrade Elias. Thank you for inviting me again.
It is always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. So we will continue from where we left off last time, but this time around we will focus on recent developments, in particular in Ethiopia. A couple of days ago, to be exact, on January 1, the new year, Ethiopia signed a memorandum of understanding with the breakaway region of Somaliland, the northern part of Somalia or northwestern part of Somalia. So please give us a brief summation of what transpired. What is this memorandum of understanding and why has it created an uproar in the region? Is it a violation of Somali sovereignty?
Very good, Comrade Elias. Memorandum of understanding signed of two people who have nothing in their pocket. My country, Ethiopia, at this moment, she was not able to pay $6 million, which she have borrowed from private banks, and she is in default. It's a bankrupt country. On the other side, I think the Prime Minister Abiy, he has squandered his popular support. I remember about 1 year ago, I was walking in Addis Ababa, and there was children from elementary school. They were released from the school, and they were shouting in a slogan. And they are saying, Abiy the thief. I have never seen somebody who have squandered such kind of popularity when you compare it in 2018 when he came, and even to a certain extent when TPLF was trying to overthrow him, which we backed him and fought for him. He squandered it and he destroyed it. He is now the most hated person. The other person who...
You're talking, of course, about Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali of Ethiopia, who
Yes.
came to power in 2018 as part of the reform government.
Yes.
Continue.
Ethiopia never had a prime minister is so popular as him, but he squandered his popularity, and now he is not only negative, it is beyond negative. The support for him was very high among the Ethiopian population because they were very tired and they wanted to start a new journey with him. But he have shattered and destroyed that. The second person who have signed with him the memorandum, he is also a failed person in Somaliland. He calls himself the breakaway government of Somaliland. Then he engineered the war, and there was a revolt in one part, Las Anod, and so on, and he was defeated. He refused the discussions he had with the Somalilander political parties to organize the election. He refused. He even attacked the demonstrations which has happened in Hargeisa, and some people were killed. He sabotaged every type of democratization in that part of the world and that part of the Somali area. And in fact, he is also another bankrupt person. So this agreement, those who have engineered it from far, they have their own strategical and concept. We will talk about it later on. But this is agreement between two failed so-called politician in Ethiopia and also in Somaliland. The agreement of memorandum or understanding of memorandum, it also brought all the pains again in Somalia. The previous regimes in Ethiopia, minus Wayane, which wanted to Balkanize Somalia, but the Haile Selassie government always they had, and that it is a policy that they were claiming when the colonialist was there to have Zayla and access to the sea. But they were not crazy as Prime Minister Abiy. They tried to convince the colonial forces and the Somali people and others, and even part of the colonial administrator rejected them, their ambition to have Zayla. And this is before the Federation of Eritrea.
In the 1940s, that is.
In the 1940s and even before.
When Emperor Haile Selassie came back from Europe, the Italians were defeated in that part of the world. That part, the northern Somalia, was colonized by the British, whereas the southern Somalia was colonized by the Italians. The same colonizers as in Eritrea and Libya, the Italians.
Yes, it is a very good. Then it is, one have to understand that it is before the Italian invasion, Ethiopia, my country, didn't have even 8 kilometers of asphalt. The Italian fascist invasion, despite of the Ethiopian patriots fighting to defend their own country from fascist invasion, the fascists invaded Ethiopia not because they have love to the face of Ethiopia, but they wanted to exploit it and to exploit the national resources of that country. And one of the mechanisms to exploit that national resources is to build a modern highways not in the standard of today. So you could see that it is the road which have been built from Asmara to Addis Ababa is about 1,080 kilometers. This is the first time the Italians to cut the mountains of Abyssinian highland and to come until Addis, expanding it to the different provinces within Ethiopia where there is resources. So this, when he came back in 1941, the emperor, it gave him a golden chance that it is before 1941 and before the Italian invasion, he had difficulties with Abyssinian warlords to centralize the government and the state. By Italian invasion, what I call it the unintended consequence, when he came back, he could centralize and defeat also his competitor in the Abyssinian highland. And
the foundations of the modern state were
indeed
in a way laid down by the brief period of Italian colonization of 5 years.
Correct. And of course, also it is the building of the Abyssinian Bank, the monetarization, slowly modernization, embryo, slowly a working class, an embryo working class emerged, a bureaucracy emerged, and finally also the Constitution of 1955. All this, it doesn't mean that there is no the problem of nationalities and other and so on. But there is, to a certain extent, a certain modernization, the creation of Ethiopian Airlines, telecommunication, and Ethiopia also by that moment had one of the strongest army. When Africa got independent, they didn't even had a police. So Ethiopia had 40,000 army, well equipped, well trained. It had also an air force which is trained first by the Swedish and later on United States. Later on, it had also a naval force after they have federated with Eritrea, and finally they annexed it. So, in fact, Ethiopia by 1960 is one of the strongest country comparatively, like South Africa, the Afrikaners in South Africa. Most of African countries, they didn't have even a single police. They have to reorganize from the beginning. At that particular moment to come, what is relevant, why I bring that it is relevant to the situation now we see. The USAID made a very big study with a huge amount of money spent by the USAID about which harbor Ethiopia is supposed to use and cost-benefit harbor. It's a very good study and it still lies in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Their analysis, which US American intellectuals subsidized by US aid, it says as follows. Ethiopia says, for the northern part of Ethiopia, which means Tigray, big part of Wollo, Gojam, Gondar, including until Walaga, I'm calling now not the names of the Kilil of the provinces. It says that cost benefit, the best, the shortest cost benefit harbor is Massawa.
In Eritrea.
In Eritrea. The second, they said that it is Ilibabur, Jimma, and southern Oromo and southern people until big part until Moyale and so on. The fastest and cost benefit harbor is Kismayo. This is the study.
You're talking about ports.
I'm speaking about ports.
Yes.
And so on. And the others, there will be Djibouti, and the others, they can be also on the basis of the development of the country, they can be very supportive. Now to come, this memorandum of understanding, it's a paper tiger, have no nose, have no soul by itself. It is a political memorandum of understanding of two miserable politicians who have lost their mass bases in their own so-called respective countries. A country which is not able to pay $6 million for the debt she have taken. Majority of the population of Ethiopia, they are living under a miserable condition. Almost 70% of the country, it is out of his hand. He have destroyed everything, and including his popularity, to believe that he is going to build a naval force and harbor. This is really a joke for me.
So let me remind our audience, the viewers, to please hit the like button, because that helps us with the algorithm to spread the word, that is, and do subscribe and share if you like the program. So sorry for the interruption. Every now and then I have to remind the audience to hit that like button. Let us go then into the substance, the contents of that memorandum of understanding. Has it been publicized, or is it just a summary of it that we hear from officials of both centers, Addis Ababa and Hargeisa?
It is partially publicized, and when you read it, it is just children play. I mean, it have no any legal cover. You could see that it is the cover and the name looks a little bit beautiful, but in reality, when you dig this memorandum of understanding, the two individuals, they appear in front of you. Who are these two individuals? And these two individuals, both of them, they have lost their popularity, and they don't have any popularity. I don't think that the so-called president of Somaliland, he can survive in Somalia. I don't think he can walk in Hargeisa peacefully unless he is protected by tanks and so on and so on. I don't think so. The population of Somaliland have rejected him for a very long time, and there was an extreme protest for the last year and so on, and he even sent his troops to kill the civilians and so on. So I don't think he have any support among the Somaliland. Somebody who is living in borrowed time. The same for also Prime Minister Abiy. So Prime Minister Abiy, who is dreaming and living in his dream, that already 70% of his country is out of his hand. He might dance with a very few fat cats around him, but it is the situation in Ethiopia. Anybody knows foreign diplomats are reducing their citizens from there because of security problem. Economic situation is very bad. The inflation is very high, is increasing maximum, and so on. And he's building palace and building parks. So he have totally marginalized the majority of Ethiopian people. It brought them to a situation that it is almost they have never seen it in their lifetime. Tigray is already there is a famine, and partially part of Amhara. The Amhara area, it is a rebellion that he sends troops, and most of his troops, they are captured or killed. He have no control. The Amhara administration had totally collapsed. There is no service to the Amhara population in any other Amhara cities and so on. Life is becoming very hard. The Amhara peasants who had harvested, they burned their harvest and so on. Several of them, they have committed suicide. The condition of the country is very, very, very bad. So it is to believe that he brought for Ethiopian people a new harbor where he's going to put his marine force and telling to his friends to jump and dance in Addis Ababa and so on. He's fooling the people. He's fooling the people, and majority of the people know Ethiopia is almost is a collapsed state, and a state failure is coming. On the other side, he ignited one thing which he have never thought about it, and what he have ignited is Somali nationalism. The Somalis, which they have forget the contradiction, and they saw Ethiopia as their neighbor. They themselves traveling a lot with Ethiopian Airlines, coming to Ethiopia, and so on. Those young people who have been born after 1990 and so on, they thought that it is okay. Ethiopia is also a neighbor country, a brotherly country. We can come and visit them, deal business with them, and so on. He shattered that all goodwill among the Somalis, and now the Somalis are seriously ignited and angry. The third major problem he have created is this false ideology of him of Oromuma. This is to tell that it is every Oromo is supporting him, and that the Oromos are enjoying and eating and drinking a land of honey and milk. But it is the Oromos who are the first who have suffered when he came to power. The first, when he released all his political opponent and all those jailed by the previous regime, he released them. But it is the number of Oromos who have been increasing imprisoned. I know that it is in 2020 when Wayani ignited the war, there was more than 6,000 Oromos in prison.
By Wayane, you mean TPLF?
TPLF, I mean the TPLF. So what he is doing is that, honestly to speak, and I want Ethiopians also to start a debate among themselves. Look, the goodwill between the neighboring countries, he have shattered it. He have signed a memorandum, you could say, of understanding in 2018 in Asmara. Then he have signed with President Isaias, President Farmajo, and him in 2020. And that what he have signed is that how to use the ports, how to cooperate in security, in social, in economics, in banking, and a lot of things have been signed. But he destroyed all that, and now he became an agent of a very small feudal state, which suddenly got oil, and being an agent of one man, and disturbing the whole region. That is very pity.
You are
Second,
talking, of course, about the
Emirates.
intervention of United Arab Emirates.
Yes, Emirates, a feudal country which have no constitution. The population is that maybe they distribute money for them, but they are not. They are a modern slave. They might drive a car and so on, take a passport and travel there and there, but they have no any political, social right. It is only his family who decided. In the past, his father was a very nice man who knows tradition, who knows oral history, and so on, and he have promoted United Arab Emirates as a very peaceful, cooperative country. But his son, it is have his own empire to build, and with the wells of the oil made him very crazy, and is playing a big politics in behalf of those behind him, and spending the public money in such a way. So to come to first the agreement, is it an agreement? An agreement is an understanding of mutual understanding of two partners. Uh, that is what is called agreement. But this is not an agreement. This is just to save to
Some say there is a difference between a treaty or agreement between two states, which is legally binding, and a memorandum of understanding, which is just a declaration of intentions, which
that.
may or may not
That
be
is true.
fulfilled by agreement.
That is true. First of all, it have no any legal binding. Just is an agreement written by two individuals. Two individuals who themselves their legality is in question, and their vision in question. Secondly, is that it is from Ethiopia side, from Prime Minister Abiy side, he is so shallow that it is the stability and the brotherhoodness and the relationship between Ethiopia and Somali people. He have shattered it, and he in fact uh, recreated all that antagonism to come back, and a bad memory. I'm listening to the Somali television and Somali Facebook and Somali Twitter and so on. Young people, whether they are from the north, center, and south, and so on. The language they were speaking surprised me. They say that it is this country, it had always been an enemy. It has always had an expansionist policy, and so on and so on and so on. And this, of course, will have a very big impact on the psychology of the Somalis, and their nationalism is growing up, and patriotism is growing up. Some of them even they go to the extent that it is this Oromuma regime, what they call is the Oromo regime, and what he promotes the greater Oromo philosophy to dominate Ethiopia and to dominate the Horn of Africa and so on, which is also a fake, which have no Oromos. Since he came, the Oromo
If you
Pesa,
will, we will go at length into the Oromuma project in the second half of
good,
this program. But what I want to focus on the contents of that memorandum of understanding, so that our viewers have a clear notion, idea. On the part of the breakaway Somaliland region, it grants 20 kilometers of coastline along the Gulf of Aden, Indian Ocean coast of Somalia, along Berbera, to Ethiopia, to establish a military base. On the part of Ethiopia, the quid pro quo, or the return, the reciprocation for that, would be a recognition of Somaliland as an independent state. So what is the problem here? Is it a violation? How does the notion of violation of Somalia's sovereignty enter into this?
Very good.
What is Somaliland? Does it have the right to grant such kind of sea access? By the way, the sea access or the ocean access in this case is in the form of lease, granting Ethiopia lease of 20 kilometers of along the coast for 50 years. So it is not a permanent swap of territory, but a lease. So what is problematic with this? I want you to go into detail to explain that.
First of all, this is a declaration of war of Abiy against the Somali people.
How so?
The Somalis will never accept that it is part of their land to be given to another country. Secondly, the man or the person who have signed with him the memorandum, he is not legal and he is not eligible. He have no the legal mandate to do that. Even if he's a bit clever, he could have brought this issue to his own parliament and could have discussed about it, and the Somaliland population also could have discussed about it. But it was done in a black market, secretly. He sent him a plane, he comes there, a paper was written, and they told him sign. So there is no transparency on the agreement itself. Leaving the legal aspect aside, technically, even the way it was made, it was wrong. He sent for him the plane, hijacked him, brought him to Addis, and so on, and he put the paper. He said, "This is our understanding. This is what I want from you. Sign." That's what it happened, and this have hurt the Somalilanders. The way they were treated by somebody himself. He is only a mayor of Addis Ababa. He cannot even travel outside Addis Ababa except by helicopter and so on. He cannot even travel to the so-called, he says, represent Oromos. He cannot travel to Oromo area, which is totally closed. And the Oromo peasants are suffering, killed the last 5-6 years and so on. There is no health, there is no school, there is nothing. A lot of them have been destroyed and so on. Their cattle were taken from them, as we have seen in Guji. There is a popular revolt everywhere, even in Oromia is not controlling big part of it. The population of Addis Ababa, they cannot move outside Addis Ababa and go to the other parts. So this is two miserably failed individuals met in black market, and somebody blessed them saying that I will pay you some money, please sign this and sell it to the Ethiopian people and sell it to the Somalilanders. But it backfired. It backfired because it doesn't have any, apart from the legal point of view and so on, they are two miserable individuals. They don't have even the money. The money is not, in Addis Ababa, is not even able to pay $6 million, and he's talking that Ethiopia is 120 million and needs an access to the sea and this and this. This is fake. Just to try to throw a sand on the eyes of the Ethiopians, that he wanted to say that he is the first one who had brought sea coast and harbor to Ethiopia. But one thing, this man is a swindler. Swindler because he could not have survived in Addis Ababa if the Eritrean army supported him and so on and crushed for him the TPLF in Tigray. When you look on the documents, the TPLF discussions, which have taken more than 3 months in Mekelle, all the leadership, they were there, and the generals, they were there. Their analysis of about Ethiopia and Abiy's government was very correct. They say, we can defeat him, we can go there, he have no army, he have nothing, he have no police, and easily we can take over the power. On that, they were correct. Their biggest mistake they did is that their analysis on Eritrea was very shallow. And that is why they felt that there will be the Tarzans of the region, which their backers in the United States and Great Britain and some charlatan Europeans touching their back, telling them you are the Tarzan of the region. that they could not analyze the reality, and then simultaneously started a war also against Eritrea by throwing 100 missiles toward the capital and other places and so on, and forced Eritrea to defend herself. Otherwise, they could have defeated him and he could have been killed, he and his family. This man, he have a very short memory. He has a very, very short memory. He doesn't remember the past. He only remembers of yesterday. Therefore, with all what he have signed in Asmara, he and the tripartite agreement also in 2020, that
between Eritrea, Somalia,
Somalia,
and Ethiopia in
yes,
2018.
he just threw it in the garbage. And who have helped him that it is? He didn't had even. I was in Addis Ababa, Comrade Elias, when I came in 2018, just after several months that he was as a prime minister. I was asking myself, how is possible? And here I wanted to put the important pillars before we go to this discussion, because for me, this memorandum of understanding, it is a fake. It have no any meaning. It's a paper tiger. When I came to Addis in August in 2018, there was the police, which had been controlled by the TPLF, have disappeared, big part of it. The TPLF have controlled Ethiopia for all that time. One of the most important pillar was the intelligence service, which is about 100,000. From that, it is 35% at the middle and the top, they were Tigrinya speakers. Second, the army, he himself in the parliament, he went and he made a speech. And I hope that, Comrade Elias, you will find he was talking to the people of Ethiopia openly, the prime minister, saying that 80% of the generals, they were Tigrayans, and so on. 60% of the colonels, they were Tigrayans. 50% of major and down the fighting force, they were Tigrayans, and so on. So if in that situation, I don't think he's a Tarzan who could have defeated the TPLF. Of course, the masses, they were with him, because the masses of Ethiopia, they wanted a change. Secondly, his major mistakes in the war, everybody knows. Later on, he turned against his own partners who fought with him, and they fought for him. The Amhara Fanno. The Amhara Fanno, they were his partners to fight against the TPLF invasion and so on. He turned now and he destroyed the Amhara area, and all that problem is going on. Now he wanted
both regions, Amhara and Afar, their
yes,
militias and their
indeed, and
volunteer Fano forces did fight on the side of the Ethiopian National Defense Force to defeat the TPLF's aggression.
I'm sure the Ethiopian defense, national defense, including the marshal, he knows. There was no, they themselves, the only army, the most organized one, the heavily armed one, and so on, is the army, the Ethiopian army, which is stationed in Tigray. 32,000 of them. 10,000 of them, they were Tigrinya speakers. They defected and joined the militia, and they joined the TPLF. 8,000 of them, they ran away without clothes, without food to Eritrea, and Eritreans fed them, armed them, and so on. The remaining, they were killed. These are also Ethiopians. So just to show you, with all these sacrifices it is made, he squandered it and turned. I ask any listener, whether he's a Somali or Ethiopian or from Horn of Africa, please go back and read his long interview he did with the New Yorker, in order to understand what type of a man he is and how he's reasoning.
You are talking about the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's interview or a lengthy article by the New Yorker journalist John Lee Anderson.
Yes,
which was published in I believe last year, 2022.
Yes, 2 years ago. And when you read, that is an autopsy of the mentality of the person. When you read, you could see that it is he was not capable to rule that country. But to come to the main topic we are talking about. The main topic we are talking about is, first of all, it have destroyed and shattered the relationship and the confidence building which have been built between the Ethiopian people and the Somalis. This is one. And it is heavily damaged. It's a big damage. And it will take very long time to rebuild it again. Secondly, this man, he is wearing a cover, a false cover, as if that he is an Oromo and promoting an Oromo interest. He doesn't promote any Oromo interest. In fact, the same TPLF as they have used the people of Tigray and finally they led them to be in famine now, he just uses the people of Oromia and making them that other Ethiopians and the people of region to hate them and to be considered enemy number one. He is repeating the replica of the TPLF 27 years experience. Now, what is the reaction of the Somali people? The spontaneous reaction and the government. The government of Somalia and Mogadishu, they have rejected it totally in everything, and they say this is an aggression of a sovereign state. They have written to the UN, they have written to European Union, they have written to the Arab League, they have written to the Islamic Council, they have written also to a lot of states to tell them this is a crazy, dangerous way that first it breaks the Charter of African Union. Secondly, this is a war and igniting a war in Africa itself. This is a memorandum which is to open a gate of a civil war in the continent. Therefore, I appeal also to African countries and African intellectuals that to campaign against the lunatic Prime Minister of Ethiopia, he calls himself Prime Minister of Ethiopia. This man, he wants to bring a very big civil war in the African continent by being an agent of a very small Arab country which doesn't have even a constitution, which doesn't protect, and they just pay him few cents and so on. So the man, I think he needs a serious medical treatment if he's a serious person. But the condition of Ethiopian people by itself tells you, he says that Ethiopia is 120 million and economically we will grow and so on. Let me tell you, Comrade Elias, the last week, all the civil servants of the country, they were forced to make a meeting for 4 days. The very strange, this is a very good thermometer which shows you that the popularity of Abiy and his party, how is beyond the negative have reached it. The people said, and everywhere, and they commented, they said, we are not member of the so-called Prosperity Party, and you are cutting up from our salary. In fact, you are a theft. You are stealing money from our salary as if we are member of the party. We are not, and we disagree with this party. This party have no vision. It doesn't represent anybody. It represents only the fat cats and him around him. So it is a very weak government with almost non-existent party. For the first time, is the country is late, and he is making a lot of mistakes, and his mistakes is Ethiopian. It will cost Ethiopians for a very long time. The antagonism in the Horn of Africa between the Ethiopian people and the Somali people, particularly not of people level, but it is the false consciousness he wants to create. It will. I think here I will appeal to democratic, far-sighted Ethiopians to think twice. Their country is on the verge of collapse. And if it collapses, that millions of people will die. So we should stop this tap dancer very soon. And of course, the Somali people also, they have to think of this Bihi, a military man who lives in the Middle Ages, who only thinks about himself, who have no interest and heart of the Somalilanders themselves. So I think this is a gang of two who are bankrupted politically, socially, and psychologically. They signed a document, and that document called is Memorandum of Understanding.
Okay, fair enough. We are having this conversation on Red Sea security, part 2, particular sovereignty versus expansionist ambitions, with my guest, Professor Mohamed Hassan. I would like to remind all the viewers once again to please hit the like button and share so that the message gets spread widely. Now, Mohammed, I would like us to focus on Somaliland. Somaliland has been in a state of limbo in the past, say, 30 years after the collapse of central authority or central government in Somalia, which happened in late 1990, early 1991. But yet, this breakaway region, Somaliland, which is on the northwestern part of Somalia, has not been able to garner international recognition. No state has recognized it, neither the African Union, nor the United Nations, nor the Arab League, nor any African state. Why has it been in such state of a limbo? And if it is an unrecognized entity, authority, probably a breakaway regime, but with no official state status or nation status in the international community, what right does it have to sign away, whether in the form of lease or for military naval base, such an important part of territory, coastal land?
It's a very good question. First of all, when we speak Somaliland, we are speaking the land or the people?
Both the territory and the people within it.
The people are Somalis of different clan. And majority of the people live in that area, but it is a good number of them also live and participate in politics in Somalia. Minister of Finance is from the north. The Speaker of the Parliament of the House, the Upper House, is from the north. A lot of ministers they were also, they have parliamentarians in the south. So not all northerns are secessionists.
You're talking about
Northern Somaliland.
Northern Somaliland, but
Yes.
in the government of
Somalia.
Mogadishu, of the
Yes,
transition
always.
of the federal government.
Yes, not only now, from the, in the past also, since federal under Farmajo, President Farmajo, also now under Hassan Sheikh. This is one. Secondly, of course, Bihi, particularly Bihi, is just as a protege of the president of Djibouti, Gele.
Musa Bihi being the
yes, he's a
president
protege,
or
yes.
the leader of Somaliland.
Yes, his term is finished. He doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to make an election, and so on and so on. And finally, also in one part, which is very big part, Las Anod and so on, where the Somalilanders revolted against him, and there was a military clash, and they chased his army.
A bloody conflict in which hundreds died,
Yes.
but
Yes.
the Las Anod Khatumo region has now sort of broken away.
Broken away. Then in his center, what you say, the biggest parliamentarian group is it's an alliance of Garhajis. They are 51% of the seat of the parliament. Abdurrahman is the chairman, which I met him. They were demanding an election and so on. He postponed and he refused an election. He maneuvered there and all this. He doesn't want to have an election. He knows if there will be election, he will lose. So he wanted to stay in power by all other means, and by military power, and supported by external, especially the president of Djibouti is subsidizing him, buying for him weapon, and so on, because he's a protege of the president of Djibouti, which later on now is losing himself as the battle came near to him. So what is that it is? There is no Somaliland in real sense. So the young people who are the majority, more than 70%, most of them, they are born or they were small kids when the state of Somalia collapsed. Now they don't remember and so on, the antagonism, the false education they try to give them, and so on. Their educational system collapsed. It became a lie. So a huge number of young people also from the north, now they are working in the south of Somalia. They are realistic, it is their country, and so on and so on. The one thing which is very, very clear, and you could see that trade never broke because it is the merchant trade in all parts of the Somali area. So it is fake. In fact, the purpose was to transform Somalia like United Arab Emirates formula, which is Sir Edward Tarfaski's designed for to fight the Yemeni revolution in southern Yemen. And finally, with the support of Wayane and some British and American individuals and government, they federalized Somalia. And on the basis that these people, they speak the same language. Federalism is not for division. Federalism is a process for unity. What is separated areas you want to unite? The same like in Switzerland and other places. But federalism here in Ethiopia and in Somalia is used as a mechanism to divide the people in false cantons. But in Somalia, you cannot put a false canton on the basis of the language as they did it in Ethiopia. They are all Somalis, they speak the same language, they have the same music, they have the same religion, and so on. With urbanization, with exposure, with Somali diaspora extensive everywhere in the world, more than 1 million, a good dynamic economic class emerged, educated men and women educated emerged, the so-called this division disappeared in real sense. It doesn't apply in their lifetime. So this
So
man,
again, though, the question that is important, that needs to be addressed, why hasn't the political class or the ruling class in Hargeisa over the past 30 years in this state of limbo that the territory has been existing, in order to get international recognition, why haven't they held a referendum or a plebiscite to
a good question.
to have a popular will to back their independence?
It's an excellent and a very good question. In normal circumstance, you make a referendum to legitimize your cause. But they knew that if they make a referendum, they will lose.
How so?
Majority of the population will not accept secession.
What is the indication of that? I mean,
the indication is that if they were sure that the population will vote for independence, they could have organized. But Somaliland, again, when you open it and you see the second leaf inside of it, it's an elite of Isaki elite who rules this, including their commercial classes, despite of the division.
but then you said that not all Isaks are for secession or for separation or for
Of
independence.
course not. The elite in the name of the tag, like Oromuma, the tag which is using Isakism, they have an economic interest. And they wanted to maintain that economic interest. Because the inhabitant of the Somaliland in diaspora, they are a very dynamic inhabitant, and the remittance they are sending to home, it is more than 4 to 5 billion euro. So this is a cash cow is coming from outside. with their dynamism and so on, with the solidarity to their families and so on, a huge amount for money comes. Also, it goes to the south. So this elite, which have accumulated the last 30 years, you could say the last 25 years, wells and so on, they want to keep their wells and they wanted to keep the situation to continue like that. And they don't want a modern state to be established and so on. Sometimes they use also religion, they use also tribalism as much as possible, and so on, just to put sand on the population. But that gradually evaporated. There is no modernity. It is a feudal situation, even peri-feudal situation. But history continues. The people became urbanized, educated, exposed everywhere in the world, dynamic they became, men and women, and so on. So for them, this story doesn't work for them. So the elderly politicians who are now grabbing the power and so on, they are frightened if they knew. And I'm sure they have a lot of lobbyists they can pay. In fact, they are generous when they pay, that it is some Europeans and so on and so on, including individuals I know who are earning money from them. When I ask them, these people who are saying that we support Somaliland and so on, well, the first question you wanted to legitimize, and you think that the people of Somaliland wants a secession, make a referendum. Invite.
The question here, let's flip it around. And I want to play the devil's advocate and ask you, would Mogadishu, the central authority of the federal government of Somalia in Mogadishu, allow a referendum to happen if Hargeisa wanted it? And if
why not? Why not? Mogadishu can believe and says that it is okay. We want one united Somali, but within the Somali concept, I'm a Somali myself. If the people of Somaliland, all of them, make a referendum and they say, okay,
in an internationally monitored, supervised,
yes,
free and fair,
no
free and fair
problem, no
referendum.
problem. And if they want a divorce, and in a legal sense, I have no problem with that. Anyway, they are Somalis also. I cannot be a super Somali more than them to tell them to stay together. But the ruling elite in Somaliland, which they are clever, I are not so stupid people. So why they didn't do the referendum? Why they didn't promote the referendum? Why they wanted everywhere they go recognize us? But in what basis you can be recognized? At least you could have a document that you could show to the other states to say, look, we made a referendum. This is the international community had come. What they do is that an election. And the election is not a referendum. A referendum is to decide, and they know a referendum means it will be negative toward them and it will expose them. So this elite, they hijacked it, they closed it, and they wanted to continue in this way, to have and dominate their economic base and their economic interest to be there. It is trade. Some of them are traders and so on. And they are trading with everybody. It's a good question, Comrade Elias, you ask. A serious patriotic, a serious individuals or groups or political party, they could have said, okay, we are from Somaliland and we don't want, we have suffered in the past and so on, because this is what they tell you. Then, okay, organize a modern, invite the world, and so on. And if you decide and everybody likes it, and so on, ahla wa sahlan. I have no problem. I will even campaign for them if they want. But the reality on the ground, they know that it will not happen. That's why
Now,
it
therefore,
dragged and
then,
dragged and dragged. Yes.
the sovereignty of what is now Somaliland, or the northern part of Somalia, by the international community organizations such as the United Nations, the African Union, that sovereign authority is recognized only for the federal government in Mogadishu.
That is true. That is
And
true.
that's the resolution that the parliament in Mogadishu passed, condemning this memorandum of understanding signed between the leader of Somaliland and the leader of Ethiopia as illegal, as an act of aggression, and an act of violation of sovereignty. It comes within this context. That's why I've been repeatedly asking you to clarify for those viewers who are not familiar with Somalia, with the Horn of Africa.
Very good. First of all, until now, Somaliland is not a recognized state.
No state in the world has recognized it.
No one except Taiwan.
Okay, well, Taiwan itself is in a state of limbo.
Oh, yeah. So it is, no one recognized it.
Not even the United States?
Nobody. But the external forces, United States, Great Britain, and other forces, they want to keep it in limbo, the whole Somalia. And they don't want Somalia to come back as Somalia they remember in the past. That is one factor. But they are not only using Somaliland, they are also using Puntland, they are using Jubaland, they are using all these clannish warlord type element.
These are various regional states within the federal government.
Yes, yes, but they are warlords. In fact, it is just they gave them a legal system that not to call them a warlord, but they are warlord. Abdi Modomi Jubaland is a warlord, and all others are warlords. So it is to make sure that Somalis, they cannot come and discuss among themselves.
If you can limit the movement of your mic, Professor Mohamed.
So to limit, because Somalia, after the Cold War, it collapsed. And the unipolar world have seen it as an advantage to control that part, divided, colonized, and in the process also a lot of wells was discovered. Somalia have 3,300 kilometers sea. There is a huge wells of oil and gas discovered in the sea and the ground.
Offshore as well as onshore.
Indeed, yes. And of course, strategically located. And the unipolar world thought that it is to keep Somalia divided like that, and to keep at bay the forces which they consider one day they will be competitor on us. And with the anchor state theory, which Anthony Lake have developed and divided Africa into 4 groups, that it is the greater Horn of Africa was allocated to Meles Zenawi TPLF. So Meles Zenawi, a de facto ruler was, and he was in fact intervened in Somalia. By his intervention, he have created it also. Somali nationalism became very strong. And as a result of that, also Shabab was born out of that intervention. So did Meles Zenawi was protecting Ethiopian interests? Absolutely not. He is not protecting, but he uses and frightens non-Somali Ethiopians that it is if Somalia comes back, Somalia will be a threat and so on. And finally he died, and finally TPLF is overthrown. And now the people of Tigray is in the worst situation pre-1975. There is a famine and hunger in that country, and they are totally destroyed. This shallow, narrow, selfish element, they don't think very far. We thought, I was their diplomat, we thought we are going to build a new neighborhood between Eritrea, Ethiopia. We might even help the Somalis to debate among themselves and establish whatever type of state they want. And then we can work all of us together and bring the Horn of Africa peace, prosperity, and unity among the people of the Horn of Africa. The first who shatter it is Meles Zenawi and TPLF by being an agent for external forces. So his children now, they are in power. Abiy is just, he joined the OPDO when he was 15 years old, coming from a very small village. And he was educated, inculcated, and so on, with no ethno-fascist type of an ideology, and so on. And of course, he's a top.
Explain what you mean. That who are the OPDO and how are they the children of the TPLF? What do you
Very
mean?
good. I will explain. Ethiopia was ruled, and I have said it also in the Ethiopian television, by a Bajaj type. Everybody knows what is a Bajaj. It's an Indian car, small Indian car with 3 tires.
3 wheels, yes.
3
3
wheels.
tuk-tuk.
Tuk-tuk. But the tuk-tuk was, the driver was a Tigrayan, and 27 years was driving it. The 3 wheels, they don't say anything, they cannot hear anything, they cannot see anything, they can only be used. One is the Amhara organization, the other one is the OPDO, which Abiy is member of it, is the Oromo organization.
Which stood for Oromo People's Democratic Organization.
Oromo People Democratic Organization, where there is no even a sense of democracy. They are just, you could say that it is the Nazis, the Nazi Germany, had agents in every nationality, including on the Jews. If you see the film in Warsaw Ghetto of Warsaw, you see Jewish police wearing Nazi thing, and they were torturing and beating Jews and so on. So these are not different from that. They were torturing Oromos, killing Oromos, raping Oromos, looting the resources of Oromos, and so on. These are the Abadulas, who are PWOs, military of Mengistu soldiers with a lower rank who have no long education. Their exposure is very poor.
So by children of TPLF, you mean, of course, as a proxy forces to rule over the Oromo people. They are
Oromo
proxies
people,
of the TPLF.
including the Amhara people and Southern people. But finally, that it is enough, and the Oromo people, later on the Amharas and so on, the young generation revolt, and they call themselves Kero, means is the youth. They revolted, they paid 5,000 martyrs and so on, and TPLF was defeated. And that process that Abiy
After
Ahmed came.
27 years of minority misrule, kleptocratic misrule in Ethiopia.
Indeed. So everybody hoped, as I have said in the beginning, that it is Ethiopia will start a new chapter and the region will start a new chapter among themselves, and that it is all the people of the Horn of Africa will have peace and cooperation. But the problem is that it is the forces, external forces, who are penetrating and disturbing our neighborhood. It brought the situation to this disaster. Here I wanted to attach is this memorandum of understanding, or the so-called Zela Berbera project. It's not a project of Ethiopia. One have to understand very good, and the people in the Horn of Africa, in Somalia, in Ethiopia, and so on, have to understand very good who is behind subsidizing, pushing for this project. It's not Abiy's project, for that matter. Abiy it is a dancer, a tap dancer for them. It is the Emirates. The Emirates, after almost, you could say, after 11 September, the Emirates developed a vision of her beyond her capacity, a very small country.
You're talking about the United Arab Emirates, whose capital is Abu Dhabi in the Arabian Peninsula across the...
This country was established in 1960. It didn't exist before. And United Emirates is a 7 sheikhs united together that the British create them. The difference of them, even the history, if you look, the history of Dubai is a recent city, and it was a very poor, irrelevant in comparison, as we have mentioned, Aden in the first discussion we had. The concept of
I would like to acknowledge a very good book you you gave me graciously to read by very well-noted British political scientist Fred Holiday, Arabia Without the Sultans, which is a good read to understand these sheikdoms of the Gulf countries, their political background up to modern times.
Wonderful, Elias. It is the best book until today. And the professor, the late professor, which always be remembered by that part of the world and even in the world, a clever man. He told me when I met him in his office in
Fred Holiday.
Fred Holiday and his wife. He told me that probably that book is the only book will let me to remain and to be remembered in history, and he was right. So I really advise all Ethiopians and wherever they are, and also Somalis, to read that book. Here, if you really contact
And also Eritreans, and also
Eritreans,
Sudanese, and also
Sudanese,
Djiboutians.
everybody, in fact, everybody in the world. So
The book is Arabia Without the Sultans by Fred Holiday.
yes, and we can send you, if you contact Comrade Elias Amare, we have the PDF and we will provide you free. You will really enjoy it. And then what I'm talking about, you will see it there deeper and deeper. In fact, I'm repeating big part of it from there. So to come now, what changed the situation after the Cold War and little bit after that? The first, of course, gradually it developed this expansionist policy of United Arab Emirates, an appetite after 11 September.
After the father, the founding Amir
Yes.
Sheikh Zayed passed away, and his son, this current ruler, Mohammed bin Zayed, took the reins of power.
The father was a great man, an elderly statesman, a very good man, and a humble man who wanted that it is the whole people in the region to live together. That is why when he started trying to build his police and this, he took Eritreans, he took Somalis and so on. I remember when I was a student in Cairo, a lot of Somali students who have finished there, and they came and they recruit them to work as police, to work in traffic, to work on this, because of the shortage of human resources. So it is almost, it's a very peaceful and nice country was. The old man was also have its own tradition, is a man of his word, and so on. But this young man,
An honorable Arab.
an honorable, yes, an honorable man. But this young man, it is, of course, he didn't grow up with poverty and vision. He developed an appetite to be the Nero of the 21st century. That it is with his small thing country is not enough for him. He wanted to dominate more and more everywhere. But the capacity that it is, there is no constitution in this country, is a feudal state with big buildings and banks. But there is no democratic right, no Emirates people can speak and about their mind and so on. And when after 11 September, some Emirates educated class, they start establishing some contact and established a website and so on to discuss and so on. They were harassed and arrested, and some of them run away from the country. This is the nature of this country. But to come, that is their internal affair, and I'm sure one day that the demise of this feudal regime will collapse with the development of civilization, modernity, education is expanding and so on, and studying outside and so on. Of course, the country have a military base, a French military base. The intelligence is ruled by the British and so on. It's a false flag state, if you wanted to say. But to come to our topic is, Emirates is ruled by 4 layers. In the front is the Imam or this Muhammad, the one who's ruling now. Behind him, there is Mohamed Dahlan, a Palestinian who used to be a Palestinian government under Arafat, responsible for the intelligence, but finally he was an agent of Mossad, and there is a lot of rumors about him that he have killed also Arafat. When the Palestinians discovered that he is an agent of Mossad and they came to capture him in Ramallah, he ran away and he entered Israel, and now he is advisor behind the screen. He is the one who's leading. His name is Mohamed Dahlan, Palestinian, a traitor and an agent of Mossad. Then behind them, behind Dahlan and the Mossad, is the United States, which uses the Emirates, sometimes even the Qataris and so on, but it is outsourcing. Which, they pay the money, they do the thing for the major objective of the unipolar world, and which is led by United States. It is good if somebody wants to be your bodyguard while at the same time paying you and spending his own money. Because these people, they don't know even the value of money to a certain extent. They have intervened in Libya, they have intervened in Syria, they have destroyed Syria, and so on. All that crisis came with Qatari or Emirates money. Now, through the process they developed, the Emirates, they believed that they have to control all harbors around them and to make Dubai a hub of all these harbors.
The ports, you mean, the major ports of
The major ports.
the Horn of Africa
and the major port from Mukalla, which is in Hadramaut,
in Yemen, southern Yemen.
In southern Yemen, Aden, Mukalla is Hadramaut, southern Yemen, Aden, the second, the known British port, Hudayda, Maha. This is one side they wanted to dominate, and that's why they intervened in Yemen and so on, but it is in Yemen they were defeated. Yemenis are tough people, as we have discussed in the first program.
Yes, the war on Yemen, in which Saudi Arabia, Emirat were on one side, and of course the Ansarullah rebels and other elements, perhaps supported by Iran, on the other side, from 2014 up to, I don't know when it ended, to 2020, 2021.
Yes. So you see the port, when you look at the map, Makalla, Aden, Hudayda, Maha. This they wanted to dominate. There will be all these ports that are supporting ports for Dubai. Dubai will be the hub and the center. And then they wanted to dominate also the Horn of Africa ports. From Port Sudan, Massawa, Asab, Djibouti, Berbera, Bosaso, Mogadishu, until Kismayo. That is their ambition.
Mm.
The first agreement they made is with the government of Djibouti. With a Djiboutian businessman, his name is Bore. They came and they signed with the government of Djibouti, and they rebuilt a little bit the port of Djibouti. But after a while, there was a crisis happened. I don't know what is it. And the Djibouti government chased away. They chased them, and it took the port from them.
The agreement was broken, and in fact, it went to the court in London. And
yes, it went to in Paris and London, and in London, they have won those the Emirates and that Djiboutian business people. So the agreement now Abiy did with Somaliland man Bihi is a pressure on to make as a pressure on the president of Djibouti, Gele. First of all, it is near to him that what they have given, that Somaliland had gave so-called port for Ethiopia. Second, that the Emirates, they want to come back by force, including to get their money back and to come back and dominate Djibouti ports. That's why the Djiboutis in this situation now, they are quiet. And I was told from inside Djibouti that Djibouti is in a panic situation, that they have lost also in court in London, and Djibouti now it is under pressure, and they are not able to speak openly.
After the Emiratis were Dubai port world, I can't remember the exact name of the company.
They
Dubai.
moved to Berbera.
Yeah, after they were kicked out from Djibouti, it was the Chinese who took over, right?
Yes, and they moved to Berbera.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, Berbera is dominated by them. Why they have to push Abiy to have a fake places which was nothing it is built? But it is also it is the Emirates. They wanted to put a maximum pressure on the government of Djibouti to come back and to surrender for them the port which they have lost. The other thing is the Emirates also are trying all the best to fight Hassan Sheikh and dismember of the Somali army, which is built gradually. And
President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud of the federal government of
the
Somalia.
federal government of Somalia. And they are now dancing with Dani of the Puntland man. It is subsidized by Emirates. So Emirates, by hook or crook, they wanted to dominate from Djibouti until Kismayo. All these ports must be dominated by them, connected to Dubai.
Let us also not forget the Emirati intervention in the civil war in Sudan, in particular propping up the rebel Rapid Support Force General Hemeti, Hamdan Dagalo Hemeti.
That is correct. It is the money and the support of intelligence of the Mossad. It extends itself to Hameti, and then to Chad, and then until Libya. General Haftar, he was an officer. He was fighting as a Libyan in northern Chad in the time of President Hussein Habre of Chad. And the Chadians, Hussein Habre and Idris Deby, they have defeated the Muammar Gaddafi's army in northern Chad. And they have captured the 3,000 officers and soldiers, Libyan soldiers. And Hussein Habre, he sold it to Reagan. And Reagan collected them and brought them first to Kenya, and after that they took them to Latin America, and they kept them for one good day until Libya collapses, and they brought Haftar back and his friends to Libya. And he is now in the payroll of United Arab Emirates. The same, the young man in Chad and so on, also are now in the payroll of Emirates. And the warlord now, the Rapid Deployment Force of Sudan, it is also paid. So as I have said last time, United Arab Emirates had built the biggest gold refinery in the area. Her other main purpose is that the smuggling and the stealing of all African golds to be brought to United Arab Emirates and to be melted there and so on. So United Arab Emirates, being
to
afraid,
dominate the world gold market.
gold, indeed. So the relationship with Abiy they have is a very tricky one. One is to steal the gold in Ethiopia, as they did it in Sudan, and secondly to make Ethiopia dependent totally under them. And of course, Ethiopian situation on the ground is very, very bad, and situation is at any time it can explode. The people in Ethiopia, they are in a miserable situation. That inflation is getting very high. You could say 70% of Ethiopians, they are out of the administration of him. I don't think that this
In
man.
fact, the other day you told me that, by way of analogy, that Ethiopia is under a big volcano waiting to explode.
Yes.
So, in that regard, what I would like you to do is, first of all, from where comes this volcano, the legacy, the toxic legacy of the TPLF, what it left when it was ousted from power, and how instead of doing genuine reform or radical reform, that legacy was continued and still haunting Ethiopia, and the divide and rule, the toxic ethnic politics that still haunts the country and is a cause of many wars across that big nation.
In 2016, I wrote a small pamphlet called Ethiopia at Crossroads. For anybody who wants to read that, we can provide you. What I have wrote is how Ethiopia as Ethiopia existed, from where she came, what was the forces that created Ethiopia. Then the Haile Selassie regime, until it is collapsed, and the classes who have ruled, and the popular forces, and the emergence of democratic revolutionary forces, and finally the overthrow of the feudal emperor. And men expected that Ethiopia will start a new life, but that was hijacked by the military officers because they are the only one organized. The military officers continued in whatever name and so on. The war continued, and they have collapsed in 1991. What is their positive side? What is their negative side? It is written in that book. Then the first time ethno-nationalist party took over a multinational country and instituted an apartheid system of federalism. Federalism for the former prime minister, I consider it is like you have a very big turkey, Ethiopian turkey, you remove all the thing and you put it in the oven. And when it is ready and very red and very ready, you open the oven and you remove the skin, and the best part and the most delicious part will be eaten by TPLF. The remaining and the turkey mirki, as they call it, part, that it is for the OPDOs and for the Amhara organization and for the South.
The proxy puppet organizations.
The proxy puppet organization. And it is very obvious that such kind, like a small, big elephant, small bird sitting on it and moving it, well, it takes time until the elephant feels that that small bird is moving on his back. The day they felt the move, then the elephant start moving and the bird collapsed. And that is 2018. 2018 was the best occasion that Ethiopians can build a new contract and build a new modern state. Exactly, it was hijacked by another ethno-nationalist thinkers. They are not even thinkers, they are secondary thinkers. And they continued. Of course, the first phase, we defended them because it is the TPLF wants to come back, and we stood with them as a united front. But then once that it is, they have shifted, and instead of building a new type of contract among the people, having a good relationship with the region, if you don't have a regional concept, and you cannot have also a country concept. So they start calling the enemies of the region and trying to destabilize the region. And they destabilized the region, they destabilized their country, and they brought Ethiopia in a standstill. Now the issue comes is these different volcanoes are there, and we see some of them are exploding. The volcano in Amhara area exploded. The volcano in Tigray now with famine is exploded. The volcanoes in Oromia have exploded. And the volcano of poverty, the marginalization of the Ethiopian people. They are in a worse situation. There is no health, there is no water, there is no electricity. Food is getting very expensive. People, they are in Addis Ababa, I'm sure at least 40% of the people, they eat only one time, or every 2 days they will eat one day. This is the situation of the country. So in order to twist the elite, they don't care, because you could see the number of the V8 cars, you see the parties they are organizing, and so on. In Ethiopia now, you can't even keep money in your bank, because you could be kidnapped and your money can be taken. You cannot move out of Addis Ababa. This is the situation of Ethiopians in such a miserable situation. There is a possibility 2, 3 another volcanoes will explode, and finally maybe the demise of the state will happen, because it is already a failed state, and now is antagonizing also its neighbors, antagonizing Eritrea, antagonizing the Somali people, and so on. I think I appeal to majority of Ethiopians who are rational and thinking. I think they should stop their squabble among themselves. They should not think small. They should think bigger, and be democratic, and to certain extent revolutionary. Come together and discuss and find a solution, and remove this terrible man from Ethiopia and his agent, the fat cats around him. Otherwise, the big volcano will explode, and then a big problem in Ethiopia and in the region will be. The second thing I will appeal is to the Somali people. I don't think Ethiopians today, they are willing to fight Somalis, or they have any antagonism toward the Somalis. This is a trick of two individuals who have losers, and I accept the Somali people to defend their national sovereignty, but they should understand that the situation of the Ethiopians is even worse. There are hundreds of thousands of Oromos immigrants working in Somalia. They are also victims of their life. The Oromo area is the most shattered. Their peasants cannot farm, and so on. All this is done by this, the one who's leading the country, the Nobel Prize winner, Prime Minister Abiy.
Fair enough. I would like, I'm sure you have read it, to bring to your attention what one well-known Ethiopian politician, Andarga Chowsige, recently wrote in his Twitter X post, that the recent memorandum of understanding was driven by two desperations. One, the desperation of the Somaliland's leader Musa Bihi, and the other, Ethiopia's prime minister, the other desperation being that of the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali. Was he correct in his assessment of the situation, the two desperations, and how would you say the situation in Ethiopia, the desperation that Andarga Chowsige is referring to, is such that unless something is done, unless progressive democratic forces rally to save the country, that imminent state collapse and disintegration is inevitable?
It is his. I read what he wrote. It is correct. It's a correct analysis. It is by two disparate individuals are trying to play an acrobat. But here I wanted to add something. I have the feeling in diaspora and among the intellectuals or urbanized, which are very small in number comparatively. Ethiopia is a peasant country. When they supported the prime minister when he came, and now they consider that they were cheated. I say they should not think in that term. Politics are decided on the time and on the situation there. The situation at that moment, we all supported him. I had my reservation from a class point of view and others, but TPLF must be removed. That it is an agreement of every Ethiopian, whatever from whatever class and from whatever nationality in Ethiopia comes. But he abused us, or those who really believed him very much. They should not feel guilty for at that moment being honest and hoping something for their country. They should analyze and say, we should not be cheated again, but we have to struggle. It is their own, it is our home, and it is our country is going toward disaster. Millions could be killed, and they have to open the window and they have to discuss about it. They should not be ashamed. Secondly, we have to take it
To
as
say, in a way, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
yes,
The political class, the political elite should now
yes,
rally so that they cannot be continuously fooled, and the fate of the country hang in such a dangerous balance.
yes. Secondly, is Ethiopians, they should not only, there are three misguided way of thinking that they have to learn and they have to avoid it. Ethiopia, yes, is a bigger country, but is part of the region. And Ethiopia can only prosper when Ethiopia have a very good cordial, comradely relationship with the region. That it is Ethiopia can dominate others, it cannot dominate anybody. Ethiopia to embark on domination means is the demise of Ethiopia. Anybody who is thinking with this jingoism and a very narrow old thinking will only bring Ethiopia into a disaster. So to understand Ethiopia and to relieve Ethiopia and to bring Ethiopian people in the right path, you must also have a global, at the same time, a regional democratic vision. This is the only way we can resolve. We cannot resolve it alone, as long as Ethiopia becomes always a stepping stone of external forces to destabilize Ethiopians and destabilize the region. That chapter we have to close, and we have to be very serious and honest and democratic and have a very good discussion, and we have to pay the price for that. This example, it shows we cannot hide it. Look, the people of Tigray, where they are now. After 27 years, Tigrayan elite was looting and that country, and they were telling them false, who will make Tigray, Taiwan out of it, or Hong Kong out of it, where they are. Our analysis must be very proper. And I asked the Somali intelligentsia in Somalia, just look on Tigray. That is a valid example for you. That it is, you were invaded by TPLF, they came to Mogadishu, killed 16,000 Somalis, and all this. Where is Tigray now? They don't exist. The population is in famine situation and they are dying in hundreds. A wrong, false consciousness will not bring. And this is what Somaliland also must learn. Somaliland is a very small area with a very small population, 4 or 5 or 6 million, I don't know. Why you don't like to have a bigger market rather than you have a very small shop? This is a shop mentality of clanism. They have to remove it from their mind. Somalis live in a very vast area of the Horn of Africa. And they have to think, even as a modern merchant, this vast area belongs to them. It is their own market. They should build highways, they should build this, integrate their own population, dominate, if you want, the market, and so on, and extend also a relationship with other people. This parochial, backward thinking, it's the population, the majority of population of Somalis are 70% of them are younger than 30 years old. And they will never, never, never accept this. They have moved to the whole world. There is no places where there is no Somalis. You go to New Zealand, they are there. Everywhere they are there. Now in the whole globe, they are there. So I think this older leadership, who is primitive and backward and only believe in a very narrow and so on, it have to be removed. And the young people, they have to dare up and come openly, debate among themselves and so on. They have a very big country, a rich country. They can even build a big regional alliance. That is my ambition, and that is what I hope that the Somalis will be in the front line. In the front line, that it is they can change the situation in the Horn of Africa. And finally, I say to majority of the Somali people.
Before you conclude, though, there's one question I wanted to raise with you.
Okay.
We hear a lot these days about a project called Oromuma, which comes out of this the political class around Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali, the Oromia Prosperity Party, so-called Oromo kleptocratic class. Say whatever, however you may define that group that is spearheading this project Oromuma. What is it? Is it real? I mean, have there been documented evidence? Please explain, because a lot of people are in confusion about this project Oromuma. Is it expansionism? Is it greater Oromia, or ethno-nationalism gone haywire? What is it?
Very good question. The ideologue, in fact, of this Oromuma nationalism is a professor who lives in United States, Asafa Jalata. I really advise, and me and Comrade Elias, we can provide you his book with PDF to read. Because Oromos, they are not like Somalis, Comrade Elias. Somalis, they speak one language, they have one religion, they have one psychological makeup, and so on and so on, and one geographical makeup, you could say. Oromo is not like that. Oromo, they speak Orominya. The only thing which makes them to share is the language. But there are Muslims, Christians, Wakafena, and so on and so on. So they have also different cultures, and they have assimilated also a lot of other people, what they call them Mogasas. So Professor Asafa Jalata, in order to create in his laboratory and merge a new Oromo nation, he goes a nation we know, it is a capitalist creation. And it is a nation will be created at one particular time in history. A nation is not created in the womb of the mother. So he wants to forge an Oromo nation and nationalism. He created the word Oromuma. And this Oromuma of him is that to go pre-15th century. In that sense means to create the unity of the Oromos, the first thing must be disappearing, that Islam and Christianity must go out of the mind of the Oromos. This is absurd.
You go back to the old traditional...
The old tradition, as if we have a map for that old tradition. But in concrete, when you translate it of the Oromo nationalist, it is a tag of the fat cat Oromos to eat. And they put
the kleptocratic class using
they
that
put
as
sand
a cover.
on me. I'm the poor Oromo peasant who have no access for water, health, and so and so and so on. They throw sand on my eye and they call me Oromuma. They sing for me while my children are dying in hunger. My children are in misery. They don't have clean water. They don't have clinic, and so and so on. But I have to be a soldier for them. Where is their Oromuma? Oromia is now in a serious civil war.
So it's a sort of expansionist, greater Oromia
Of course,
vision,
it's
the
like
flip side of greater Tigray, you could
the same.
say,
It is carbon copy of that. Look,
an
I can
ethno-fascist idea.
yes. In fact, I can understand if Oromia was Germany. When the German expansionists and German imperialists had a very big appetite. After the Berlin Conference and so on in 1900, they have seen that they have a more dynamic economy and so on, and they want to expand and colonize in Europe, not somewhere else. Then they created a movement called Pan-Germanism, and then they classified the small nationalities of Europe. Comrade Elias, I will send you, you have to read it. This is the German imperialist appetite, that it is how to swallow Belgium and divide the two communities, the French and the Dutch speakers. And they say, in fact, the Dutch speakers that they are originally German, but who lost their language. The French speakers also, they are always, they are German, but who lost and so on and learned French and so on. And the Hungarians, they were Germans, but it is the lost little bit because they were near to the Ottoman and so on. They wrote a story, and then to swallow all this in pan-Germanic ideology. Oromuma is the same. Oromuma is developed a theory which says that the contradiction in Ethiopia is based on three bases that they put. That is a craziness. One base is that it is the main contradiction is between the Semitic speakers and the Kush. They said the
And
Semitic
that's the Cushitic alliance. That's
the
what's
Cushitic alliance. The Cushitic alliance for them is the Agaw, the Oromo, the
if you can
Somali,
limit the movement of your mic, please.
yes, the Somali, and the southern people, and so on and so on. I am sure if I bring a machine, a DNA machine, and I take Prime Minister Abiy to Bashasha, and we collect 10 Bashasha people and his DNA, probably they have nothing to do together. People can come as a society, they can build a village together and so on. And there is his DNA maybe probably is from very far away. This is a little bit fascist way of thinking, because I was listening yesterday an Oromo intellectual who lives in Australia, and he coined a very good thing. He said, "An state have no clan and have no we versus them."
Brother against the
Yes,
enemy or something.
yes, because if an state becomes
Unless it's run by nepotism, is what he said.
nepotism and tribalism, and he was right in a sense. Therefore, this Oromuma is a fake ideology, and for that, I think the vice minister, the one who was arrested, Taye Denda, rejected it. He said,
So
"This
could you say then the prime minister's latest obsession with this access to the sea? We are the huge population. We need by peace or by other means. Sometimes he hints force either Asab or through Indian Ocean, the Red Sea or Indian Ocean." And then the idea of Cushitic alliance, bringing the Afar Triangle here, and all kinds of people who are under the big umbrella of pan Cushitism, if you will. The latest memorandum of understanding that was signed between Abiy and Bihi on access to the Gulf of Aden, Somali coast, would that be then extension of Oromuma under the
correctly,
cover of
it
Ethiopia?
is. Look, the ceremonies they organized for him in Ethiopia. He was taken to Oromo area. The Oromo Bagadas came and they talked to him and they sing to him and tell to him and so on, Oromo and Somali. They are brothers and sisters since Adam and Eva. And Eva, she was an Oromo, and Adam is a Somali. We have been genetically connected. All these rubbish stories, they sing for him, they brought for him a horse, and so on. The symbolic thing, you see it there. And this is rubbish.
In fact, I heard cadres of the Oromia Prosperity Party had gone to Hargeisa, claiming that the Oromos descend from the Dir clan and therefore they deserve to have Somaliland access to
Yes,
ocean.
that they are not only descendant of Dir clan, they are descendant also of Emirates.
Explain that one to me.
I mean, you can elastic it, and you could say that
You
it is.
can create any
You can create
legend, any myth.
any story about it, and those who really believe that, they must be very, very backward. But the Oromuma is a carbon copy of Greater Tigray. There is nothing.
In that regard, then it would be as dangerous as, say, the Khmer Rouge of Cambodia, whose
Yes.
ideology went back to, say, the medieval times, 8th century to 14th century, the greatness of Angkor Wat when Cambodia ruled all the Indochina, Vietnam, Thailand, and whatnot. And so they had this grand vision, which was right-wing nationalism, but under the cover of Marxism, and it brought nothing but disaster to the Cambodian people.
Correct. A very good analysis. Khmer Rouge, their biggest mistake is that they had elastic history. They went back to the history within a very long time, which they themselves have no any clue about it. The same is Oromuma. The same is Greater Tigray. And Oromuma will be number one enemy of the Oromo people, which has suffered in that country for a very long time. The Oromo right means is bringing Ethiopia on the right situation and creating a durable fraternal relationship among all the people in the Horn of Africa. They could have been the motor for that. And they have suffered very long time, culturally, religious-wise, and so on, economically. And now to reverse that and to use that as a means of domination, but not domination of the Oromos, a domination of a very small shop of United Arab Emirates and external force, it is shame. That's why I say Oromo intelligentsia now have to wake up and to come up, because this is a war against Oromo people before everything else. And this hurts me a lot. I know Oromo people, and I lived with them, and so on and so on. I know their struggle. I know their suffering. And it is now they are inculcating hate against Oromo people. And this man must be stopped. And those Oromos, small cat, and the fatty cat, I can understand them. But the small cats who are smelling of the fatty cats what is eating, have to stop opportunism and come openly and say, enough is enough, not in our name. How is Oromos can be a dominant and imperialist force while its population is in a total miserable situation? Oromia is totally destroyed. Most of the youth are in prison. They are leaving their country in masses, and they are dying in Yemen. They are in prison in Saudi Arabia, and so on and so on. Come to Brussels and you see Oromo families with their kids
In
are
fact,
sleeping in the street.
Professor Mohammed,
Yes.
how many Oromos live and work in Somalia?
Estimation is that 2 million.
2 million. That's a huge
That
number.
is a huge. Even if it is 1 million, Oromos, they come to work, they are our brothers and sisters, and so and so on. Why they are creating antagonism and hate among the Somali and Oromo people? This antagonism never existed. So the enemy, far enemy, doesn't want our neighborhood to be peaceful. They always find agent among us. And today, who is ruling Ethiopia? It is It is Mike Hammer who's ruling. It's not Abiy who's ruling. Abiy is a tap dancer for him. It's Mike Hammer is ruling Ethiopia. He comes and he gives orders and he goes. So I really appeal to in general, to the Ethiopians, not to be very narrow, and we can save our country, we can build a new region, and so on. Think rationally.
In a short answer, what is imperialism's end game for the Horn of Africa, and in particular for Ethiopia? U.S. Game here. Is it chaos, disintegration, or what is it?
At this particular time, the U.S. imperialist leadership, their level of understanding of the world is very poor. Particularly those who are working in the State Department and other places. The imperialist forces, of course, they are behind the Congress and behind the State Department. I don't think they are giving a priority to Ethiopia, whether she exists or she doesn't exist. And you could see that the relationship.
They have bigger worries in Ukraine, in Palestine, now is wider war,
globally.
Of a wider war in the Middle East, perhaps nuclear war even.
Correct.
So in that regard, the Horn of Africa for them is not that important.
That is not that important, particularly is also Ethiopia. You could see
There's
now
also the kind of racist neglect that says, well, 10 million Africans die. What? I mean, nothing for them.
That is what the president of France, the late president of France, Mitterrand, he said. His son was supporting the Hutu fascist movement in Rwanda. And then he established for them a radio called Radio Milcolin. And these people, and then they created Interhamwe, and they killed 1 million people faster than the Nazis. And a journalist asked him, Mr. President, he said, your son have subsidized this, and in a faster rate than the Nazis, they have killed 1 million Africans in Rwanda. You know what is his answer? What is the problem if 1 million Africans die? He said. It is an exhibit in a video.
Mm-hmm.
So if 10 million Ethiopians will die or 15 million Ethiopians will die, they don't give a shit about it. This Mike Hammer is the one who was controlling Congo and creating problem in Congo. They later on, with a new package, they packaged him and an envoy of Horn of Africa and so on.
Let us not forget, in the Congo too, it's estimated in the past over 2 decades, over 10 million Africans have perished.
Imagine that.
One of the greatest undeclared genocide in the world.
So they are preparing in the same way, I think, a genocide in Ethiopia, and Ethiopians in diaspora and outside and so on. They have to be very brave and not timid.
What must Ethiopians do to prevent this disaster from unfolding?
They have to gather immediately everywhere and discuss openly and stop this narrow thinking, and they have to try to think to build a new home for everybody equal, and think also in terms of the region. They have to be regionalist at the same time patriotic Ethiopians.
When you say regionalist in the big sense of
the Horn of Africa,
Horn of Africa, the vision of the new Horn of Africa,
indeed,
living in peace with neighbors, not away from zero-sum game, in a win-win cooperative integration.
Correct, comrade. That is the only way. Anyway, the majority Ethiopian population are in a miserable situation. It's not alive. So they have to open. And I ask this journalist, Masai and all this, they have to stop this narrow thinking of the old thing. They have to bring a serious debate, and they have to bring serious people in debate. And let us discuss, let's ignite. If there is a contradiction, it's good. Let us shout to each other. Which way is a solution for us? We should not wait until a genocide happens and then later on regret. These things can be stopped, and it can be stopped only by human action.
In the final few minutes, we are approaching our end. So I would like to pose to you a question. This latest memorandum of understanding that was signed in Addis Ababa between Addis Ababa and Hargeisa has opened a Pandora's box and a quagmire. It has implications and ramifications for the African Union Charter is being violated. IGAD's statement is it's shameful. I mean, it tries to water down the violation of sovereignty of a state and calls both sidism, both sides to talk amicably when sovereignty is being violated. That is dereliction of duty, really, on the part of IGAD. So how do we get out of this quagmire that these two leaders or misleadership have created for us? I'm talking about the entire people of the Horn of Africa, because this is dangerous for the entire region.
That's correct. First of all, the Somali government have to demand the resignation of the IGAD chairman. He is a coward, and also he is in fact dancing for Abiy. Somalia should ask immediately the resignation of this, and they have to bring a new chairman. If not, Somalia have to go out of the IGAD. IGAD is dead. IGAD just a tool for external forces to disturb the region. This is my
appeal. If you will recall, in 2006, when the TPLF was prodded by the US administration then to invade Somalia, and Eritrea protested this vigorously, this violation of nation's sovereignty, a member nation of the IGAD's Somalia sovereignty. No one else spoke up. And as a result, Eritrea suspended her membership of IGAD and paid the price for it. So the current situation in that regard, there seems to be some parallelism there, comparison to because in both cases, 2006 and now 2024, it's Somalia's sovereignty that's being violated once again by Ethiopia. But I should say by the misleadership class of Ethiopia. I should blanketly say Ethiopia.
Yeah. First of all, now is the chairman of IGAD is the president of Djibouti. He have to take his responsibility. I think the secretary or the chairman of IGAD, he should be dismissed immediately, and he have to leave Djibouti. If he wants to support his fake Oromuma, he have to go back to Addis Ababa. He doesn't represent IGAD. We have to tell him, we have to say a cat. These are very dangerous people. They wanted to bring the region to a very big civil war, and they wanted to bring, these are agents to destabilize the whole continent of Africa. We Ethiopian intellectuals, we have to campaign against this fascist ideology of Oromuma. We have to bring it to the Africans. We have to bring and explain to them. It is not necessarily that an oppressed yesterday is automatically now thinking a fascist Nazi type of policy to expand and be agent in the region. I think these Ethiopians who are hiding in their houses, it is the right time is to come out and to talk and to mobilize, not to hide. If you hide, you will never stop the genocide. The genocide will come and it will knock in your house. Don't be cowards. I'm a Somali. I have a place to be sheltered, but you have no place to shelter. Specifically to these Amharas and Gurages and Tigrays and so on. Tigray is suffering and famine is starting. The Amharas. Don't be opportunist to those who are in America and so on. Be responsible. Take your responsibility. I think if we all of us take responsibility in a shorter time, we can remove this dangerous man, which we yesterday singing for him. We can remove him and bring our country into a peaceful transition. And then let Ethiopians discuss what type of constitution and what type of a country they wanted to live. And we want also our region and our neighborhood to be peaceful and so on. Second, finally, I will conclude. We have to salute the government of Eritrea and Ethiopia. Without their intervention, Abiy Ahmed could not have stayed 1 minute in Addis Ababa. And he doesn't even, in a short memory, he have this man. We should campaign against him everywhere. We should have united ourselves. We have to organize as much as possible demonstrations, campaign, discussions, writing, and so on. Ethiopians, wake up. Time is ticking. And thank you very much, Comrade Elias. You gave me all this
Any
chance.
message to the Somali people in the Somali nation and worldwide in the diaspora?
Thank you. For the diaspora young Somalis, whether from Somali Republic or from wherever you speak Somali language, let's work together. Let's unite. We should not allow our sovereignty to be touched by anybody. This is our land. This is our sovereignty. And our great fathers fought for it. And they left for us an independent and sovereign country. And we have to defend it. Greater Somalia, it also defended Ethiopian Somalis, defended Kenyan Somalis. It even brought the independence of Djibouti. We are not expansionists. We never expand against other people. We also supported all other people who have been oppressed and dominated in that empire. And we don't hate the people of Ethiopia. And in specific, we don't hate also the people of Oromos. Comrade Elias, my family personally contributed to the Oromo struggle. I am sure some Oromos who knows me and who live in Minnesota, they can be witness. They can be witness. They are the one who fought for them in the front line. We will say cut to cut. If they want a war, they are welcome. But Somali people will defend themselves. This minority, fascist, who are singing for somebody else, must be stopped. I'm sorry for being very rough. People who have been dominated, suppressed for a very long time. His elite turns against all the people in the region and thinks that to divide and create the great Kosh empire. I was in Eritrea, in your country, Comrade Elias. Who supported the Oromo right? When the Oromo Liberation Front is in Asmara in thousands, I know them and they are listening to me now. Thanks to the taxpayer of Eritrean people, the sacrifice the Eritrean people they did to you. And now you are demanding in the name of Kush to take, like Wayane, to take the Afar area, the Eritrean Afar, as an expansionist policy. Shame on you.
Sort of reminds you of Professor Mahmoud Mamdani's book, When Victims Become Killers.
Correct.
Finally, very briefly though, what should the African Union do? This opens a can of worms. It's a violation of that 1964 agreement of the founding fathers, the Pan-African leaders like Nkrumah, who in their foresight and wisdom said, let the borders, the colonial borders, stay as they are. Otherwise, if you tamper with them, it brings disaster. And yet, what we are witnessing in Ethiopia being in particular the seat of the African Union, how should the African Union react to this egregious violation of its charter?
First of all, as an Ethiopian, we are very ashamed for what happened. Ethiopia is the signing state and the founding member of the OAU. Later on
The
became
Organization of African Unity, which later became the African Union.
Yes. African Union have to take a step. Because if African Union keep quiet, then they are igniting a civil war in the region, not only in the region, in the whole continent. And I'm sure the African Union will answer very strongly to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. But the homework must be done by we Ethiopians. We Ethiopians, we have to unite. As we have overthrown the TPLF domination, we have to develop, unite and uprise against this primitive ruling class, which was an agent of external forces and bringing the region in disaster. I appeal to the people of Eritrea, inside and outside. I appeal also to Ethiopians in and out. I appeal to the Somalis, be unite and let's struggle. Let's finish the job, in fact, because the time is ticking and the country is in extreme volcanic situation. And I thank you, Comrade Elias, for giving me the chance to talk.
Thank you indeed, Professor Mohamed Hassan. Always a pleasure to have an engaged and thought-provoking dialogue and analysis with you, and you have provided us with great insight into the current crisis that's been brewing and suggested a way out. We will continue this type of discussion in the future, in the near future. And we thank all those who have been following us live and writing us their feedback, their comments. I'm sorry, because of the urgency of the matter, we could not share some of your comments, but in future, as we get more savvy with the technical aspects of the StreamYard, we will be able to read or bring to the screen a few selection of your comments. But thank you for following. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this program. I'm your host, Elias Amare. Until next time, salam and goodbye.